The quality of this material, the combination, the blending of humor and heart, the songs that are instantly singable when you leave, and the energy of the show feels like a perfect fit for Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. But because of the LGBTQ characters and plot, it has potential to keep away or give pause to some of your traditional audiences, hopefully building new audiences. I assume you had to keep all of that in mind when you were deciding, are we going to produce the prom? Can you tell us about that decision?
Sure. First, can I say thank you to the bloggers? Can I say thank you to your bloggers? You have been so fabulous to us, and it really, the show needs it. We need the extra help because of its select quality, is what I'm saying. And we want to bring in that new audience, but everything that you guys have been so supportive, and the opportunity doesn't happen very often that we get to thank you for that. And so thank you so much from my heart. When I saw the show in New York with my family, Michelle was in the back, my wife, and my daughter Kat and her husband David. The very first thing I said when I came out was, we were on Broadway, and I said, you guys, somebody wrote a musical comedy. Like the ones that I grew up on. I mean, I'm in my 70s, 74 years old, and I saw Barbra Streisand do Funny Girl. I saw Carol Burnett in Fade Out, Fade In, and Sammy Davis Jr. in Golden Boy, and Steve Lawrence in What Makes Sammy Run, and Herschel Bernardi and Bud Jour. I saw all those great Golden Age musicals because I lived in Philadelphia, so I got to take the Amtrak for $7 to New York. I could see an afternoon show and an evening show and get back. My dad would pick me up at the 30th Street Station, and I saw all of that. And we see so little of that today. I'm a big fan of the jukebox musicals. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a snob about Mamma Mia and Jersey Boys. I think they're great shows. But it's not often that you go and you see a book-driven, hilariously funny comedy with an original score that has something really important to say. And I was like blown away that we actually saw it. I had no idea what the show was about. Yeah, when I got back, I said, we got to do this show, and it wasn't available right away. It was, and a friend of mine licenses it, and I said, well, when will it be available? He said, in about 2 years. And it was exactly 2 years later when the tour came through that he called me and said, now you can do it. And none of my staff had seen it, and so I was getting a whole hum response, because I would say, I saw the show in New York, I really loved it, I think you guys are going to love it, go see the tour. And they all went downtown and saw the tour. I came back and said, we got to do that show, and they all were as excited as I was. And it's a balancing act, it's what a friend of mine calls long money. You lose a little, we'll lose a little money on this show, but we'll make it back in the long run, because it's about our future. Not just the future of the theater, it's about our future as human beings. And this is why I love this show and why I care about it so much. It's because I care about the future for my kids and my grandson. And this is a show, this is an investment in our future. And we're doing it for 5 months, and hopefully it'll pick up. It's starting to, little by little. So I think there's some ideas, there's some hope out there, and with people like the bloggers and people like you that go out and talk about it, the word of mouth is going to be way more important than anything. People are going to go home happy, because it's ultimately a happy show about a happy subject, about being together and living together and allowing people to be who they are. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I'd like everyone to talk about this, but I'd like to start with Monty. As a cisgendered white male, I have never had an issue seeing myself represented in the arts. But as a parent of a gay trans man, I have gained an appreciation for the importance of seeing yourself represented on stage. I'm wondering for you, you identify as transgender non-binary. Is there an added pleasure or pressure to knowing that to somebody out in the audience you are that representation? Can you speak to that?
100%. Yeah, it's so wonderful knowing that I can truly just like be myself in this role. I mean, give and taken some things, but like it's been very hard to see queer representation, trans representation in a happy light. I think a lot of queer representation in media nowadays has been quite melodramatic or focuses on the struggles of what we go through. But there's so much joy there, and it's really, it's so wonderful looking out into the audience and seeing people younger than me, like really identifying with this character and the work that we're all doing on stage. And it's at the same time so incredible, and every day I go home and I go, oh my god, how did I just do that? Like, why did they pick me? Why is like, why am I doing it? But it's so, what's the word? I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it's fulfilling. It's incredibly fulfilling.
Woohoo, okay. I relate very heavily also as being able to put a very joyful, well, Alyssa's joyful at the end. We get to see that journey, which I love to take every day. But a queer Black woman, like, it's so, I'm like emotional and speechless, which I think the way that I'm kind of struggling to find the words honestly speaks to how much it means to me. And that queer culture and trans culture is rooted within Black culture and Black trans women, and like Monty touched on a little bit, I think joy is so incredibly radical, and it's pushing back against all of the things that tell us that we shouldn't live out loud and that we shouldn't be laughing and that we shouldn't be ourselves. So to be able to also play young people that get to like kiss and giggle and go to prom together, when we've seen mostly that in cis white people specifically, is such a gift. It's such a gift to do every day, and it's such a gift to see, to just know that it's giving people a voice, because growing up, my identity felt squashed due to not seeing myself a lot, and it's just so beautiful to see like kids out there, and to see even like to see kids that see the wigs that we have on, that the Black girls have on, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's my hair, and kissing a girl, like it's it's exciting and it's beautiful. And Todd,
you said it all.
This might be going. Todd, you had a post on Facebook recently where you kind of directly talked about this, about talking about putting that extra energy into a performance, thinking of that young man or child, woman, whatever, out in the audience who's looking at you and seeing you as a representation. You want to say any more on that? Okay, let's send it back to you.
Yeah, that post was about how 50 years ago I came to the Chanhassen and dreamed about being up on that stage someday, and it came true. And I've been working here for 20 years. Thank you, Michael. 21 years. And that kids these days I just wanted to be on stage. I just wanted to be a working actor. The kids these days can dream even bigger. They can come to the prom and have a fuller, more expansive dream in the theater than I was able to have. I've been incredibly lucky and incredibly privileged. I've played a list of dream roles, going back to a former question, and I've played a lot of gay dudes, lonely, yearning, effed up gay dudes. And that's a privilege that I've had that is now being represented by the prom for everybody. Everybody gets to go to the prom.
Maya, your last role was Ariel in Footloose here at Chanhassen. How many days between your last performance as Ariel and your first as Alyssa?
6.
6. Okay, 6. Now the follow-up question is, did you ever find yourself in prom rehearsals perhaps going into a Footloose dance step or vice versa?
There were often times that I was like, which Dance for Press teen am I playing? Oh my gosh, I don't know. It's interesting because the way that Ariel dealt with it was a little more fiery and like anger-based, and Alyssa's a little more fear-based. So that was sort of an interesting transition to find, and a little more, because I think Ariel was pretty confident in her identity. Like, she knew who she was. And Alyssa's trying to find her way. But the other day, I'm teaching Mamma Mia at a high school, at Lakeville South High School, and I started to do like the Footloose thing in the room, and I was like, what is this? I was like, why does my body know what this is? And someone was like, didn't you just do Footloose for a year? And I was like, oh yeah, that's what it was.
Todd, okay, so with Monty, you are a recent graduate. So actors, when they're finding their roles, I think in general, you start by trying to find something within yourself that you can bring to the role and then build from there. Monty is a LGBTQ student recently. You've got something to work with there. Maya, I'm not going to ask you your age, but I'm guessing it's not too long ago that you were a student. You just played Ariel, who can behave one way with her friends, has to hide it sort of from her parents. Same sort of thing with Alyssa Green. Todd, you played Barry Glickman. We won't say older, we'll say experienced, gay, narcissistic actor. That's kind of a stretch, isn't it? How did you find this character?
In life, I'm not Barry, but I'm a quieter. I'm a thinker and a dreamer and a nature boy, but it's Barry's flamboyance and self-expression, and that all lives within me and always has. I was thinking today, I remember seeing Gilda Radner. I was watching Saturday Night Live when it started in 1975, and Gilda Radner was my favorite, and all of her characters were big and broad and cuckoo. And then I saw her on the Johnny Carson show being interviewed, and she was just a quiet, thoughtful lady. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm sort of shy and quiet, but I can. Gilda Radner inspired me to set free this flamboyant, nuts character, and I like playing these kind of guys. I love it. It's a release, but you won't see me in a silver tuxedo in life anytime soon. I love my costumes. Rich Hampson is our costume designer. I love them. They speak some volumes about who Barry is. I would not wear one of those garments ever in a million years.
That sort of gets to the what I really think is interesting about the show, humor-wise. They're making fun of these Broadway actors, but I don't think it's in a mean way. I think it is with a loving affection. It's like we're laughing at, yes, that's over the top, yes, that's silly, but aren't they kind of wonderful for being that way. I'm wondering, and I'd like to pass the mic down, have Michael start with it. Do you feel that the humor directed at the Indiana folks is balanced? Or do you feel that the humor towards the Broadway people is done more lovingly and affectionately, and it's maybe a little harsher going to the Indianians, or whatever you call it?
It's a great question. I don't know. I kind of think it's harder on the NYC guys. All that self-deprecating, narcissistic humor, I think is something we got to think about. I think Chris Hewitt said it best in his Star Tribune review. I mean, those guys don't know the people from Indiana. They don't really know their life, and so I think it makes them kind of look stupid, really. I think there's quite a bit of love in that community as well, and that's the beauty of this play. Left meets right, and they get together, and you go like, wow, that's a dream. Could that dream come true? So I don't know. I think it's pretty balanced.
I was about to say that it wasn't, and then you totally just changed my mind. Straight up. That makes a lot of sense. Because in the PTA meetings and all of that, it kind of sounds a little ridiculous hearing my son will not be forced to go to a homosexual prom. I don't think I've ever heard any sort of experience of forcing straight kids to go to a gay prom. I don't think we've heard. I mean, let me know if I'm wrong. Yeah. But it's so I do think it's in the writing or in the book alone, it seems a little unbalanced in towards because I think there's such a deep understanding of the New York Five when it comes to the writing and the composition of the story, that they can be here's everything that's wrong with us, but here's why we love it. Here's why, yeah. And then with kind of taking a step back and going to Indiana and seeing these rednecked kind of those kind of characters, it's a little more generalized, I think. Yeah, but it's also there are entire communities of people that are like this and do not see homosexuals as valid living people. So I don't know. It's balanced, it's unbalanced, it's all, I don't know, yeah.
Yes, agreed. You can really go either way. I always think it's interesting to remember that in those communities, there still are queer people and there's still gay kids, and I think that's a thing to remember when we think about there's everybody in Indiana. It's Emma and Alyssa are in Indiana too, and a lot of those kids. And I think you can do it with care. I think sometimes a joke can be a really beautiful mirror ball and make you be oh, maybe that was funny, but it kind of hurt, and then you can kind of sort through what that is and where the reality is. It's sort of a fine line, but I'm also a very big believer in meeting people where they are, and I don't know if all of the jokes necessarily do that, because I think that there's a way to, because sometimes people are just ignorant and not in a really negative connotation of the word. They just don't know, so sometimes a lot of those people, it's just like the kids at the school, a lot of them it's just their surroundings. They don't have a theater program. So they lack empathy. So it's that sort of thing. So I think it's a very fine balance, but I do think comedy is a really beautiful way to make people look in the mirror in not a super harsh way, and can make us laugh first.
I do think that on the surface of the script, there are stereotypical jokes and mean jokes, but that as a performer, as an actor, and also it's our job to bring the heart and the humanity and I think we can deliver. I think we can deliver the harsh jokes and that they work best if our hearts are invested in the moment, in the joke, in the character, in the story, and I think that actually comes from Michael Brindisi's good heart. He leads with his heart, directs with his heart, and I think our show is heart-filled, and thank you, Michael, for that.
Okay, I want to ask one more question quick, and then I want to see if we have any out there. So you've done the prom now. It pushed boundaries. Rent. Is that coming?
Well, I mean, you know, that's the hope that when you take a chance like this, you gamble. Somebody I did an interview yesterday, and somebody asked me, "Are you a risk taker?" I said, "Always have been." I don't know where it came from, but I've always been that guy that says, "Let's go for it. And let's get out on a limb and try to get the fruit." And you can't really make anything. I'm not a paint by number kind of person. I don't believe in like watching the video of the thank you, watching the video and then doing what they did. And, I mean, I'll look at the show and get influenced by it, and then maybe look at the bits and go like, "Oh, I gotta have that joke in," whatever. But basically, I mean, what was the question? Yeah. So I mean, basically, I'll like try to find what's more that's there that comes from inside. So when you do something like this, it's long money. A friend of mine calls it long money. You spend the money now. You spend the time now. Maybe you open that door. Maybe La Concha Fall becomes a reality. Kinky Boots, the shows that we want to do because they're about today. They're about what's going on in our world, and this is a commercial theater. This is a place where people we don't get any donations. We don't have any donors. We don't beg for money. We have ticket sales, drink sales, food sales. That's it, and concessions. That's it. And if we don't sell tickets, we're not open. If we're not open, we can't make anybody's life better. So they're talking about a balancing act. It's like, okay, we're going to do this in hopes that we bring in a new audience, that we can open the door to do more adventurous theater, and the next show better be a big hit. It has to balance. It has to, and that's the plan. I mean, we had a plan going into this. I mean, we knew that we were taking a risk, so we said, let's do 4 or 5 months, and then let's come back with Jersey Boys, which will probably be a big sort of blockbuster, hopefully, and we'll make back some of the money we lose. It's a plan. But in the end, we're not going to lose because 5 years down the road, we're going to be hopefully doing shows like the ones you mentioned, the ones I mentioned that are important. So yeah, Rent could be in the one of the great experiences I had is being the Chanhassen director for 36 years now. One time we got to do hair downtown at the Pantages. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean, it was like, just because we were approached to co-produce with Hennepin downtown. And it was like, like a mind thing, like we were traveling in time because we weren't doing anything like that out here. And I got to do that with a lot of the people that worked out here and a lot of our staff, and we always remember it very fondly. And we did the nude scene at the end of Act 1, and we were like, oh man, this is great. We're flying, we're on some kind of cloud. So I would love to see that happen, that it opens the door.
Is this...
I tend to pontificate like the guy says.
Is this doing a shorter run a workable model for trying out those more, risky ventures?
I think it is. I mean, I think it is a good model. I think it was a good plan, and I have to say we thought a lot about it. I have a great staff, and we thought a lot. But my hopes is that down the road that plays like the Prom run just as long as plays like Mamma Mia.
Do we have any questions from out in the audience? Bueller?
You get to go to your second batch.
I guess.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I worked here a long time ago with this one, but before he was the artistic director, he was an actor. And we did a little show called Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Michael and I were talking about this the other day. At the time, it wasn't being done. It was new. It was 1981, something like that. And the show did not sell at all. It was terrible. It was dismal. And it only ran for 9 weeks. It was in the summertime. It was a perfect summer show. And we're like, where are these people? Where are these people? This is such a good show. And then the word of mouth got out, and then it didn't take very long, and it just caught on like fire. And it was sold out every performance all the way through the end. But then we were locked in. We couldn't extend it because the next show had already been on the docket and it was already cast, and you know how it works around here. Once you're locked in, you have to shut your show and you have to open your new show. So this is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that exact same thing happens with this, because this has that same sort of potential, I think. And no one knew who Andrew Lloyd Webber even was back then. Now we know who he is. But anyway, does anybody have any questions of these wonderful, wonderful people? Thank you so much for coming today. These people have a show to do tonight, but they would love to answer your questions. They've been waiting to do this since like July. They've been asked to do this like in July, so yes.
Not a question, but another comment, primarily directed to you, Monty and Maya, that the representation you have isn't just for the younger generations. Some of us are still young in our dreams. Thank you.
Chris, to your right.
Thank you. Oh, here it is. Anybody else have any other comments? Anybody else?
Oh, thanks. So just to piggyback off of that, I'm part of an organization called Transforming Families, and it's a peer-led support group for trans kids and their families. And it means a lot to me too, to see someone who looks like my kid up there. And sorry. It's been a long journey, and so to be able to see that representation, I was sobbing through the whole thing. Thank you for your work.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that. I want to say, I told the cast this right after we opened, that I sensed a change in our building and in our employees that was surprising to me, and I was walking around, and people were talking to me for the first time, like that I didn't know, like service assistants, busboys, hostesses that we have 300 employees, so I don't know everybody on first. I know a lot of people on the first name basis, but not everybody. Everybody was saying hi to me, and I was like, something's going on here. I was walking through the kitchen, and hi Michael. They're calling me by my first name. Hi Michael, and they're like 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. One girl stopped me and said, I'm not supposed to watch the show, but I snuck in upstairs and I watched it, and please don't tell anybody because I'll get in trouble. But I want you to know how much that meant to me because it hits very close to home. And I was like, and I sat the cast down, you remember? And I sat them down and I said, this is really important. Because we are changing lives. And soft ticket sales is a small price to pay for changing lives.
I would love to say something to you both, like having older trans people to look up to is maybe the most important thing. Like seeing older trans people in the audience and being able to talk to older trans people is just incredible. Like it's because so many of us just do not live to see that age, and it's really like it's life-changing. It inspires me to keep on going and to keep doing what we do, what all of us do. It's just, yeah, I would not be here, I would not be doing what I'm doing if it were not for my trans elders. So thank you. Yeah.
Another question? Great.
Well, after that, I just want to say that as an older trans woman, I look up to the younger people. Younger people have been so inspiring to me. People on YouTube, for example, and so I want to say thank you to you. You're so inspiring to many of us. Many of us older folks. I've only been out for 7 years now, and it's a challenge to come out when you're older. And I'm just so glad to have the model of younger people to follow. So thank you.
I'd like to dovetail on that. Barry comes to Indiana to save to save Emma, and Emma ends up saving Barry. And my experience that is also mirrored in my dressing room experience. Monty and I've known Monty since he was born. His parents are friends of mine, and we are sharing a dressing room area, just the two of us, and all the youngins come and hang out with Monty. And I like Barry, who is learning from Emma and Alyssa and the situation that he finds himself in. Todd, Uncle Toddy, is learning too, and we have to listen. We just have to listen to young people. I have the line at the end to Mrs. Green: if you don't let her be who she is, you're going to lose her. And I just want to blare that message to everybody, to specific people in my life. I think they've got queer kids. I don't know for sure, but I know that those queer kids would never trust their parents to share their truth, because their parents are spouting anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-queer jokes and memes, and I would like to say, you have to listen to your kids. We all have to listen to the youngins. Thank you.
There's a question. I want to hear your question from me. It's more of a comment once again. Sorry, there's no good questions here. I'm from a different angle because I was on the producing team from Broadway. So P.S. I've never been here before, even though I know Michael and so forth, and Todd. But what I think was really exciting is we all felt, personally, I don't work on shows unless they're about racism, queer efforts, and anti-Semitism. So I have a pretty specific arena. But this show is fine on Broadway, it's great, but everyone on Broadway kind of already understands this. Our whole goal was really to get it out here And so I'm so glad that you snagged the license as soon as it came available, because this is what the whole plan was, to get it out to the I don't know, not the masses, but just different parts of the country. So I admire you for bringing this on so quickly. Thank you.
Can I say something? Okay. You made me think when you were talking about parents, because obviously, Mrs. Green, Alyssa Green, one of my, so Joey, who is our incredible assistant choreographer, we both really know Alyssa really intimately, and we talk about that a lot. Every time before I go on stage to sing Alyssa Green, I go, I love you, Alyssa Green, and then I go on. We both know her very well. And at the end, when Mrs. Green says, I just don't want you to have a hard life, which is a lot of times, I think, the parents' fear. I think that's their grappling, and when Alyssa says it's already hard, Joey was like, do you realize that that's Alyssa saying we're in the cage together? Me coming out is also me taking you with me. It's so much about community and being together, and all a lot of times, all we need is someone to hold our hand, and sometimes it's the person that thinks it's wrong, but it's because they're scared too. It's bridging that gap, and I think being able to watch Alyssa and Mrs. Green have that moment and realizing hey, it's both of us. It's both of us that are in this cage, and it'll be, and there are things to be afraid of, but that's no way to live, and if we are both walking together, it's gonna be a hell of a lot less scary to do it together. Yes. Oh, we have another question.
Hi, I wanted to thank you again for everything. I'm a mom of a child that is not binary gay, that had to move all the way to California to find themselves, and just watching them kind of try to struggle with finding themselves and figuring out who they are. So it resonates deeply when you talk about, not wanting that hard life for your child. And so I think I actually said those very words to them at one point. But I'm also, secondly, a teacher at high school and an ally, and I will be spreading the word wildly all over the place so that you guys, can share your message with lots of people. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Are there other questions out there? Yes, Laura.
It's not a question, it's of the same genre.
Coming. Hold on, I got two fake knees. Looking out for me.
I just want to hop on the train of thanking you for the show. As someone who has not come into their queer identity until the past 3 years, mostly because of the bravery of my wife, and it's so powerful just for someone who went through high school and then to it heals the high school part of myself who didn't know who they were, so thank you so much for the show.
Welcome.
I just love this so much. I wish we could do this every day. Anybody else want to share? It's just really, really moving, you guys. All right.
Let's just pass it.
So the thing I very much most love about this experience is that as a parent of a trans kid, it's very scary to be a parent of a trans kid and a trans kid right now, because it's not popular, and I could be arrested in some states for loving my kid. This is celebration. I'm wearing a shirt that says Celebrate Trans Kids right now, and it's because all the shirts I see out there say protect and love and all that stuff, but celebrate was the word that Transforming Families wanted on our shirt, because we were like, this is joyful. Our kid, every one of us who is a parent of a trans kid has seen their child transform from somebody who is very unhappy to someone who is glowing. And so it's a celebration, and prom is a celebration. So I felt that through the whole thing.
That's perfect, Ellie.
Yeah, just want to give her a hug. Yes, please.
That's my mom, and that's my dad. And I just want to say that thanks to you guys for letting me transition. They let me transition when I was 9 years old, which was 10 years ago now. So that was like before trans kids existed. And it's just really awesome to like be able to grow up in a household that has such accepting parents that are so loving and willing to walk the journey with you. So being able to, first of all, have a dad that's into theater, so then you get to go all these cool shows. But also just have them be willing to listen and let me drive the boat on like, this is my life. Which I think eventually, like in the show, like especially with Alyssa, it starts to be like, okay, like you need to start driving the boat and you need to start like living your life fully. So.
Thanks, Joe.
Wow, that's
I'm very
cool.
proud.
I feel like we need to cut this off, although I don't want to. Is there anyone else that would like to share? I think this is going to have to be the last one. You can have the final word. How's that?
Okay.
Ask a 12-part question.
As a trans kid growing up, I never got to see trans people act on stage. This is my first time, and it really gives me to someone to look up to because I'm a trans kid in theater. I'm the only trans kid in our theater department, at least, that acts on stage, and it really empowers me to see other trans people living their life and doing what they want to.
All right, I guess we have to call it to an end. I want to thank all of you. Your performances are amazing. This was my second time. I think I'll probably be back again before you close. Monty, it broke my heart every time. I cried like 12 times during this show. It's just fantastic. Michael, you've done an incredible job here. You should be really proud. I said in my review, is it weird for me to say I'm proud of the theater company?
Yours was my favorite review of every review that I read. Thank you.
Jill commented then when I posted my review. She
I like
said,
yours too,
"I'm
Jill.
proud
Don't
of
hurt
them
her
too."
feelings.
She said, I'm proud of them too. And because you chose to do this, and it is a risk, and it's fantastic. And so everyone, if you love the show, of course you did, get out on your social media. Tell your friends. Tell your neighbors. Tell your homophobic neighbors and tell them what it's about. This show has the power to open people's hearts up and let them see and gain empathy for these stories. It's such a beautiful tale, and it's told by such a fantastic cast. You are all amazing.
I want to add two quick things, just because I think you might be interested. Next week, we're doing a fundraiser for One Heartland and for True Colors Camp. I don't know if any of you have been to that camp. That is an amazing place. So that's all next week. We're raising money for that with My Talk, our partners. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is we have a pop-up store in the Galleria starting next Sunday on the March 12th. We're taking over a store at the Galleria. It's going to be the Prom store. There'll be a celebrity there every single day, and we're going to be collecting new and gently used prom wear. And every time somebody brings in a load of dresses or tuxedos or whatnot, tiaras, you get a free ticket to the prom. Okay, so bring your stuff out. Is Project Fairy Godmothers is partnering with us on that. It's such a wonderful, wonderful organization. So we'll be out at the Galleria through the 19th, every day, the 12th through the 19th. Bring your prom wear. And everybody have a great, great rest of your weekend. Thank you to our panel.
Really quick.
Just want to wait. Yes, we have a GSA. Yeah, I just want to know you like I don't know what to do with them, but they're sitting in my office. So yeah, you just give me 1 second here just to push some buttons on my live stream.